1992 in Silicon Valley, and it was started by Indian entrepreneurs who had done well in Silicon Valley and wanted to give back by creating more entrepreneurs. So they created this non-profit organization that basically has the credo of fostering entrepreneurship. And we do it in various ways by imparting education to entrepreneurs, mentoring, giving them opportunities for funding, opportunities to network with other entrepreneurs. So that is how we work. This is a chapter-based organization with about 62 or 63 chapters now worldwide. Several thousand, about I think 18,000, 20,000 plus members now. I don't recall the exact figure. So TiE Lucknow was started in 2015 and is now just over 5 years old. Currently led by Sachin Sahni, who is the president. Today's event is about digital. Everybody is talking about this, how to leverage IT to grow your business. There are various ways of leveraging IT, of course. There is digitalization of your processes. There is using various kind of social media to grow your business. So there are many, many different aspects of how information technology can help businesses. And today, to talk about these various aspects, we have two speakers. I'll start with Lata. Lata is one of the co-founders of NewGen Apps, which is a global IT services provider based out of Lucknow. She spearheads the technology advancements at the organization. She has extensive consulting experience with technology implementations across various genres, including banking, health, fitness, entertainment, fashion, and publishing, amongst others. So thank you, Lata, for taking the time out today to talk to the audience. The second speaker today that we have is Kais. Kais Mujib is a class of 2001 graduate from the prestigious ICFAI Business School in Hyderabad. He is also a certified project management professional from the Project Management Institute, US. And Kais carries over 18 years of work experience in content development, strategy, content management, technical writing, and software documentation, web development. The list goes on and on: SEO, SMM, SMO, digital marketing, project management, and corporate training. Kais has spent 11 years in the IT industry, worked for various companies in Hyderabad and Pune, and he has now set up his entrepreneurial venture, Ascen Consulting Private Limited, in 2012. So I think we should now hand over without wasting any time. So Lata, I believe you're the first, who is the first speaker? Is it Kais or Lata?
Kais would be beginning.
Kais, you're starting?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'll hand over to Kais now. Thank you
so much, Ashish. Without wasting much time, I would just like to start. I want to share my screen and let's get started with the pitch deck, with the slide deck that we have. All right. So the questions that we gathered from the TiE WhatsApp group when we spoke to founders and entrepreneurs, business owners in Lucknow, we wanted to first understand what are the pain areas, what are the problems they're facing, and what is something that they need help on, at least to start off with. So here's the agenda. Uh, how to outsource work and how to track it. So the companies which are not into the tech space, they would certainly need an IT partner. They need a company, or maybe if not a company, they need somebody to help with them. It could be just a web developer, or it could be somebody who can take up the digital marketing of the entire organization. So now the question comes that should they hire somebody full time, or should they hire a freelancer, or should they hire an agency? Again, if they're talking to an agency, so what will be the model? Will it be fixed monthly? Will it be effort based? So what kind of a billing cycle or a billing model has to be followed? These questions kind of hound everybody who actually wants to do this. So the agenda says how to outsource work and how to track it. Then increasing sales through social media. Social commerce is something which is on the rise, and people who don't even have a website, they also use social commerce, and they make money out of that. Then is there a quick way to get a website for online selling? Sometimes people think that an e-commerce website takes a lot of time and money to build up, but then it could be easy, and we want to know how it can be made easier. Then digitizing internal processes and backend operations. For example, if you are into e-commerce, then you would want to look at your supply chain. You would want to look at packaging, supply, delivery, everything. And you also want to keep a close track in terms of the data, like what is happening, what are the statistics, what are the metrics of your business. And there's always people are lookout of tools and apps, sometimes free apps, sometimes which are not very costly, because small businesses, even medium businesses or startups, they don't want to spend too much money. They might be in bootstrapping model. So they want to start small, see if things work for them, and then maybe go ahead with the buying decision for any subscriptions. So we start with this, and I would invite Lata to take it up from here.
हेलो भाई आप बोल चुके हैं
Hi everyone. So I'd first like to say that in case any of you have any questions, we will take them up towards the end. But you can always type in your questions in the chat in case it's relevant and we're discussing the topic. Then we'll try and answer it immediately. So when you're talking about going online or starting to sell your services or your products online, there are certain things that you should take care of, or there are certain questions that you should know about. Can we mute this person? Anyway, so there are certain things that you should know about and should be asking yourself, whether you go to an outsource company or you start your online operations or your digitization operations in-house. These are the things that you should be asking yourself. So take it as a homework or as something that you can start off the whole process with. One, what sort of product or service are you selling? Two, what sort of customizations are possible with the product? So if it's a t-shirt, then the color, the size, and things like that. If it's, let's say, some fabric, then the kind of embroidery there is, what sizing you're looking at. If it's services, then the model with which you work with the client, is it fixed price, is it time and material? So these are all the customizations that you need to be aware of. What is your tech ability? So when you're talking about taking your business online, like Kes said, you can either do it in-house, or you can outsource it, or you can hire a freelance developer for a fixed amount of time, and then you can work with them. But one of the major questions that comes in to decide what model or how you should go about is, what is your ability to absorb technology or understand technology? How good you would be at understanding what the other person is doing, or guiding them with what exactly you want and how you want it done. So some people, they know that for a website, you can use something called WordPress. Now, WordPress is not the only thing you can use for developing a website. So if you just go to a developer and say, I need a WordPress website, that might not always be the optimal solution for what you are trying to do. So what is your ability to absorb technology or understand why technology works or why something might not work for someone else? Then do you have a good aesthetic sense? This is more of a add-on. So there are times when people have a good sense of design, of color schemes and all, and they can visualize how they want their product or how they want their website to look or how they want their digital shop front to look. Great, you can give these inputs to the person who's working on your website and they can start working on it. But if you're not that great with it, for instance, I have a pathetic design sense, I have a pathetic aesthetic sense, then I'd probably want a designer to get on board and take care of that aspect as well. I do not want to handle it myself because I know I'll probably make a mess out of it. The colors won't look good, or it just gives out a very bad vibe, or it's not as minimalistic as I wanted it to be. And it's a very garish website like the ones that you saw in the 1990s, maybe. So that's again a part of who you should be hiring or who you should be outsourcing to and what you should be outsourcing. And finally, are you tech savvy? So we've come across clients who know their technology well. We've come across clients who have absolutely no idea, who are absolutely clueless. What do they want or how to go about with it? The clients that are tech savvy, they can discuss, they can have technical discussions with us. So they do tell us, this is exactly what I want. And then we have a discussion with them, whether it is feasible, whether it's not feasible. So these are the kind of questions you should be asking yourself. And then we take the next steps on how to go about with digitizing your needs, whether it's your company processes, whether it's your e-commerce dealings, or how you're selling stuff. Can you go to the next slide, Kes? Yeah. So there are basically two different ways you can go about with digitizing your needs or taking your business online: building in-house and outsourcing. Even if you're doing it with a freelancer, it's essentially outsourcing your work. So there are pros and cons to both of these. When you're talking about building in-house, you might feel that eventually it will probably cost you less. So let's just quickly look at how an in-house model, or why it should be, why you should go for a in-house development or outsourcing your project needs. So when you're talking about building your product in-house, it means you build your own software team. You have a group of employees who are directly available for you to address any issues whenever you want, and they probably know your company's ins and outs. So what are the benefits of it? The first, probably the most important benefit of it, is face-to-face contact. You can communicate with them directly. You know that they're working in the same office with you, so it can increase the team's effectiveness. There's ease of communication, so there's absolutely no room for confusion and misunderstandings. And if there's a very small amount of time delay between actually fixing that and moving on. So that is probably the most important when it comes to having an in-house team. The next is on-demand control over your process. So you can get things done in real time. You have immediate access to your in-house developers. Let's say you have a sudden change of plans, that we had decided that we'll ship product feature Y later on and X now, but now we are switching it. We will first do feature Y and then we'll do feature X. You can do that immediately. You can make changes to your development immediately, and staff members will quickly adjust. Fine, this is how we're doing it. When you're using an outsourced team, there might be a delay because of time zone differences, because of how they've already planned stuff. They're in the middle of something, they cannot switch immediately. that might be a problem. So course correction might be a problem in that case. The next is they are aligned with your company needs. So when you hire someone, you obviously onboard them, you tell them about the company, you tell them about your vision, about what exactly you're trying to do. So they know that these are your company needs, and they know what exactly you're trying to achieve. When you're talking to an outsider about these things, at times it becomes a little difficult in making them understand. Whenever you hire someone from outside, or whenever you are talking to someone outside the same ecosystem that you're working on, they might not always know what exactly you're looking for. They might not always know your business model, or how your space works. Whether if it's fashion, then how fashion industry works, or if it's food, then how exactly the food industry works. So when you have someone in-house, it is aligned with your company needs. And for obviously for longer term needs, let's say you have development plans for the next 10 years, it is less expensive to have an in-house team compared to an outsourced team. But having an in-house team also has its own set of challenges. So that comes to the cons. First, it is very difficult to set up if you do not have any technical know-how, or if you not planned it well, then it will be a waste of time, waste of energy, waste of resources. And eventually outsourcing would probably look like a better option. The second is finding the right talent. So technologies these days, especially going digital, is very high in demand. And it is a very difficult task to find qualified developers with the right skill sets. So you might be looking for someone who has, say, 10 years of experience with WordPress, but it is possible that if that person does have 10 years of experience, he is working somewhere outside. Tier 2 cities tend to not get that experienced lots when it comes to technologies in demand specifically. So you have a very shallow talent pool to select from. The third is the cost. So when you're talking about hiring someone, you need to invest in finding the resource. You need to invest in training them, getting them on board, getting the relevant software, getting the relevant hardware. Softwares are not cheap unless it's the free software. So if you consider all those, all that cost, the overall implementation cost comes to be higher than what you would spend in outsourcing your work. And one other thing, in-house is not sustainable for short-term projects. So let's say you are only looking at building a website, which is a front for your business, just so you can get online. And then you would probably want to do everything else yourself. So hiring someone to just build that website over, let's say, a course of 4 months, 5 months, 6 months doesn't make sense. I mean, it's just, what do you say to that person? We don't need you anymore, bye bye. That's not really how you would want your business to be portrayed to anyone, as because this person would probably go to other people and tell you what sort of an employer you are. So it's not sustainable for one-time projects. Longer term needs, definitely, but not one-time projects. The next slide, please, Kes. Yes, okay. We left one slide, yeah. So when we come out to outsourcing, so outsourcing again has its own set of pros versus cons. The first benefit is definitely that you get an abundance of technology professionals. You're not limited to a geographical location of where your business is based. So you might be sitting in Lucknow, but then you can outsource to a company which is, say, working out of Hyderabad. It's not that Lucknow doesn't have its own set of technology professionals, but for instance, you want to You found someone who has a better match to what you are trying to do, and they're sitting in Bangalore or Hyderabad. It's possible. You're not limited. Then comes to the kind of knowledge that they have. So when you outsource to a company like ours, you're talking about someone who would know how to build a website. They'd also be able to take care of your e-commerce needs. They would also be able to take care of your digital marketing needs. They'd also be able to take care of let's say you want a mobile app as well. They'd be able to take care of that as well. So you're not limited to just one thing that you want to do. It's not like you would go to company X for the website, go to company Y for the mobile app, go to company Z for your digital marketing needs. Everything gets done in one place. Next, it is time saving. So all you need to do is find the right match, get started. You do not have to onboard them. You do not have to train them. You do not have to give them the relevant softwares and hardwares and licenses. They already have all that. So you can get started and your time to market reduces drastically. They do not need any training. And finally, it is flexible costing. So this is more of a two-edged sword when it comes to outsourcing. People think that outsourcing can be expensive. And yes, to an extent, it can be expensive compared to your in-house development. But it again depends on what kind of agreements you have in place, what kind of projects you're looking for, and what kind of talent pool you're looking for. At times, the talent pool that you are looking for, it would probably be more expensive if you have to have an in-house team. For example, you want an iPhone application or you want an application that works on iPhone and Android. If you're doing it in-house, you will need to buy a Mac. Macs are not cheap. So you'll have to invest in that kind of softwares or hardware. And you'll probably be stuck at dealing with Apple, dealing with Google. But if you outsource it to a company, they would know what to do. So it reduces your time, and all that amounts to reducing cost as well. Because as they say, time is money. It also comes with its own set of challenges. I would not say cons, it's more of challenges. The first probably is indirect communication. So when you're not talking to someone who's sitting right in front of you doing work, when you ask them and how you ask them to do it, there can tend to be a communication gap. You explain something to them, they probably did not understand it or understood it in a manner which is not something you were looking for. And that tends to leaving a gap. We used to play a game when we were kids called Chinese Whispers. Started with a message from one person, went to another, it was whispered to a third person, and probably at the end of the cycle, something completely different came up. So this is something like that. You explain your project to the project manager explains it to the developer understands something completely differently. So this can happen, and it's up to you on how you mitigate that, how you manage that. It also depends to quite an extent on how experienced the team that you're working with is, because if they've been in business long, they would know that these things tend to happen and they'd be more careful around it. The second issue that a lot of people that we work with have come up with is asking us, is my idea safe with you? So they would not even discuss it, and they have this inhibition that can I trust you with my idea? Aisa to nahi hai, I will tell you something, you'll take it to the market and you'll release it, and my idea is lost. So finding, and people do that. We have seen cases where outsourcing companies do that. So you can trust, finding someone that you can trust with your data, with your idea, with your implementation. Because when you're talking about developing softwares or taking your business online, there are a lot of things that you need to tell this company or share with this company. Is it safe with them? There's always a security risk. Or will they build a loophole in your system so that they can siphon off some data out of it? There is a security risk, but then there are things like NDAs or working with a company who has a set of clients that can vouch for them, that yes, we've done work with these guys are trustworthy, they're good, so it's fine going ahead with them. And the third is the quality of work. So you'd find a lot of outsourcing companies that provide services at various price points. A lot of companies, a lot of people that we've worked with have gone to a company just because they were offering a cheaper price, then come back saying that I lost an X chunk of money, but they could not get my work done. So now can you please look after my work? And what does this lead to? This leads to loss in time. This leads to loss in money. And this leads to an overall bitter experience with outsourcing, because of which they tend to not trust anyone that they work with. So it all comes down to making sure that you hire the right kind of team that you can work with. And Kes would be discussing this over the next slides on how you can make sure that you find the right partner for yourself, how you can track what kind of work they're doing, and how you can keep be involved in the process. Over to you, Kes.
Thank you, Radha. So now that we have discussed the thing, so let's get on the job and how do we start with it. So the first challenge is vendor selection. How do you find the team or the developer or the freelancer who's ideal for your kind of business? So the first, as Lata said, that don't always look at the cost being the only deciding factor, and you want the cheapest option. So that is not safe, because there are other things that you have to consider: the team's capability, how much you can trust them, and beyond this, the quality that they have served to other customers. So you have to also look at their work, what they've done. You might want to look at reviews and testimonials given to them by their customers. If they can give you references where you can directly go and talk to all these people about their experience, that can give you good insights. And then the previous projects, they give you good insight about what kind of quality to expect. Can they, because you have your idea what are you looking for. So when you look at something as a benchmark or as work that they have done, it gives you good idea about if they can match your expectations. And then before you trust anything, it's very simple. To begin to trust somebody, you can give them small things to do, so that you don't have big risks. So you start small. You start small by asking for small things, for things that can give an idea. And maybe a paid pilot is a good idea to start with. So if the first module or first part that they can do at a marginal cost, and you can look at it and see where it is going, that could be a good starting point. Okay, then once you have decided the vendor, you know who you are going with. Planning holds the most important phase. Like here, you have to take care of a lot of things. So you have to kind of have documentation done when you start with the contract. Have them sign an NDA with you. Ensure that your domain name, your website, you hold the ownership of all of that. So the hosting, domain, database, source code. Uh, when you ask, they should be, required to give it to you. So it is something, whenever you want a copy, whenever you want a backup of that, you can always have control over that. In future, in case of any dispute, this should not become a point where they hold something for ransom. So that's something which is very important from your safety point of view. Then the outsourcing model. So is it going to be project based, or will it be a dedicated team for your work? A dedicated team means they are not going to work on any other assignment. So if you have dedicated resources hired from outsourcing company, you should actually get their daily status reports of what they have done on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. So that is how you should look at. And there's this staff augmentation model, which again, it's the same thing. You hire a company and they give you 1, 2, or 3 resources as per your need, and it changes. Number of people you engage, it can be changed from 1 to 2 to 3, and then back to 2 and 1. based on what you need and when you need. Of course, there has to be a plan, and how you are adding people and how you are removing them, that has to be planned in advance. You cannot do it just like that. One morning when you wake up and you say that I don't want 2 people, I want 1 people, 1 person work on this assignment. And then market research, doing your own study about what you want. So what happens when we meet customers to us with some requirements which are vague, they are not much clear about what actually are they looking for. So what is the first question I ask them is to, do you have something in mind? Do you have a benchmark? Do you want to show us something that you have liked on the internet? And there you can translate your requirements. So that helps. Of course, when you talk about this, everybody's when you're talking about e-commerce, so the customer would directly think of Flipkart and Amazon. So the best, when you think of a real estate website, if the customer is from real estate, so they might get the big name and say that look at this website. So again, benchmarking has to be realistic, and you have to see what size are you going to be. So if you are looking at a website, so it as a benchmark, it should be somewhere in that segment, in that space. So that is a rational requirement. So you have to also rationalize that whatever samples or benchmarks you're giving, you should be there in say 1 to 2 years, if not right now. It should not be a 10-year journey, because in 3 years you're going to change everything again. Okay, and then a budget in place. So there has to be a budget, and when I say budget, it is never a fixed number. So it will have some room of plus and minus. So everything that is estimated, it is a ballpark figure, a number which is estimated based on what we see as the effort going in. So it has to be there has to be a room for increasing it as there are constraints. For example, there are 3 things: scope, time, and cost. So if one of them changes, the other 2 will be affected. If the work increases, the change request, you're doing work in a proper manner, then it will have impact on the timeline. Set a timeline for a specified work, scope of work, then you can ask for it in that time. But if you're changing the requirements, if there's some change that has been discussed and agreed upon, which is a clear indicator that the timeline will extend. So the disputes generally come in that you could not get in time, you could not get something on the promised time. So it has to be always taken in mind that if the scope hasn't changed, then of course that is something which you can always ask about.
Before we go ahead, I would like to expand on the first point. So when you're talking about taking control of accounts, how you generally do that, or how we prefer to do it with our customers, is whatever we need, we tell them upfront, these are the things that you need to sign up for. If you need help, definitely we'll give out help to you. But always make sure that whether it's hosting or getting domains or where your database is hosted, it uses an email ID that you operate. You sign up on all these places using an email ID. Make sure that the company uses an email ID that you operate. Because a lot of our customers have come to us where they've lost entire source code or the entire database because the company held it back. They held back the information saying, give us this amount of money or we are not giving out this information to you. That's a lot of data. Database is very important. Database is equivalent to money these days. So losing all that information is a major problem. The second thing, doing the market research. So Kes would agree with me on this. When we talk to customers, they say, हमको Uber चाहिए, लेकिन restaurants के लिए. अरे भैया उबर चाहिए, उबर ने 2 साल लगाए थे इस चीज को फाइनलाइज करने में. उबर ने बहुत सारा पैसा स्पेंड किया था. You're not willing to spend that amount, right? Start small. Think about what you want, build up on that. It's not that 2 महीने में आपको पूरा प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट करना है. Start small, build up on that, go with steps. That helps you in having better control of what you're looking for. That helps us in having a better control of how we deliver it to you. So that is very important. Yeah, go ahead, Kes.
Right. Okay. Okay. So then we talk about operations and project tracking. So during the course of project, you as a client, you should get and you are entitled to get the updates from the project team, the communication based on what you have agreed. So if you have agreed upon a weekly status a report or a meeting, that should happen. If you're on something which is very intensive and every day things change and you want to look at it um, in a more detailed and microscopic view, then you should ask for daily updates. Otherwise, once a week kind of a meeting or update is good for any project. And where you can run through the progress, you can look at the numbers, you can look at the reports. So something has to be decided when you have this proposal, when you sign the agreement, you can always put these points there. What kind of reporting are you looking at? So, and there are tools again. So when you're talking about how to get reports and how to monitor things, so it's like when you look at Activity Watch or Toggle Track or Clockify, these are various tools that you can ask team to clock in their time and see how much effort is going in. Because sometimes you also want to know that even though you might be giving it to a company that is using shared resources model, but you actually want to know how much time might take. So you can ask for these things. Then uh, give some time, so that is very important. The moment you have got into a contract and the moment you have given some advance amount to start off with, uh, find out that what is the first deliverable that you will get and how long it will take. Because any project, before starting even the team, it needs time to understand the concepts. They read a lot, they research a lot, they gather information, they decide what kind of architecture would be there. So this planning can take a week, 2 or a month, depending upon the size of the project. How big are we looking at? Any points here, Lata?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And then presence. So once your project is done, and let's talk about the social media part here, because that was mostly from the web application development perspective. Now here we talk about online presence, web presence. So you have to decide where do you want to be present. So based on the target audience, based on where your target customers or prospective customers are, you have to choose from these platforms. Some are absolutely compulsory, because if you're looking at the website part, so you have to try and find out good place on search engines. You have to ensure that your website is optimized for search engines. Then videos are much in vogue, and they actually contribute a lot in your website standing on search engines. So YouTube could be a compulsory thing. Uh, Talk about domain, which is into finance, which is into academics, education. LinkedIn is something which is compulsory. Anything which is in common usage or which has a graphic appeal, you can go with Facebook and Instagram. Then Etsy is, if you're into e-commerce, you can think of Etsy or other marketplaces where you can list your products. Pinterest again is much like Instagram. And blogging, of course, has to happen if you want to talk about it and if you want to index your pages high up in the search engine results. So choosing your platforms are very important. It's more important to post on each of the platform you choose rather than having all of them and not posting anything for months or a year. So you have to actually pick it. Now talk about engagement, lead generation, and conversion. So basically, when you talk about social media, these are the only things that you are going to be doing there. One is engaging with your prospective customers and current customer base. You want to generate leads towards sales of your products and services, and actually convert those leads. So with this objective, you get into social media. Now, on presence on social media also means that you want to draw traffic to your website, because that is where the actual sales is supposed to happen. And that is where you can get the maximum metrics from what you're doing. Apart from the platforms that give you a good deal of detail into what kind of traffic is coming in and how are your customers reacting and what changes should you make if required to your product or service offering. So here you have to first start with building a relationship with your prospects. Anybody who you think could be your prospective customer or buyer, you have to start building a relationship with them. Establish yourself as an industry expert, educate your audience. which means that if you are in an industry where people don't know much about, you have to first tell them what it means. For example, if there's a company which is into loans, so they have to first tell that what is a loan and what are the implications, why should you ask for a loan, when should you ask for it, and is there an eligibility criteria. They should educate them about credit history, credit rankings, credit score. So after that, the trust starts developing. So they see you as an authority, and then you kind of are trusted by your customers, and they start thinking about buying from you. Post often and consistently. So there has to be a frequency of your postings. It could be just once a week, or it could be every day. You can decide. And again, if you are into e-commerce, you're selling things uh, every single day, you have new products. Of course, you'll be posting on a daily basis. But if you are into a space where even once a week, if you tell your customers that this is what you have done, and you might not even have that kind of information handy. So there has to be content that you can share. You cannot just post anything. You cannot, your posts have to be focused. They should be aligned with your products and service offerings. And only then your customers will find it consistent and relevant. Then vary content to keep it fresh. So there's a variety of content. So from ebooks, podcasts, webinars, photos, videos, if you're posting different things, the profile becomes rich with a variety. And every user comes with a different kind of a learning way. So some people are more visually, they want something which is more visually appealing, and there's some people who want to read a lot. So targeting everybody, you should have a variety of content that goes. Then you use latest. Yes. Hello. Okay, so I'll carry on. So we use latest trends to increase brand visibility, and there are various contexts in which we talk about the content that is generated by users, which is very good because again it comes from the loyal customers and which who act as brand advocates. So involving users, involving testimonials from customers is going to be very helpful. You must answer follower questions regularly. So once you start getting comments and questions, the first thing is to honestly answer them and make sure that they are resolved. That is the first way, because not only those who are asking questions, that all the other followers that they're looking at your answers. They want to see how are you engaging with somebody who has a problem with your product or service, who has a question, and that will encourage a lot of engagement. Chatbots are a certain way to start a lot of engagement, and you can have dynamic element on your website. You can start talking to them, make the website more interactive. And optimizing social media presence is something which you want to make information easily accessible. So it should be available for everybody. Research the target audience, do a lot of influencer marketing if it's possible within your sphere. If there are people who are endorsing, and any endorsements can help. For example, if you are into some kind of devices that can be recommended by experts, for example, something that can be, if there's something which is healthcare related, you can have doctors, you can have healthcare professionals endorse it. And that could be one way of using influencer marketing. Invest in social media advertising. See, this is important because social media postings may not help, because Facebook or any other platform now they want to make money, and that money comes from ads. So your post, your content will get attention only when you sometimes post them, and you can start paid ads on them. And finally, buy directly from the post where possible with lesser number of clicks. Okay, so now we're coming to tools part, and I want Lata to take this up.
Sure. So when it comes to start selling your products or services easily, there are a few things that you can do. A lot of them are one click, but a lot of them require additional technical know-how. So depending on what your needs are, depending on how you really want to, or what you want to sell, and the questions that we discussed in the first slide, how customizable your product is, what exactly you're trying to sell, plus what is your tech savviness, you can select one of these platforms. There's platforms like Shopify, WordPress, Wix and Squarespace. These are website builders. Some of them have drag drop abilities where you can just drag and drop controls and boom, your website is ready. You just need to specify the inventory or probably install a couple of plugins and start working, start selling. Some of these, for instance, let's say building with WordPress or installing something called you need certain plugins for being able to sell on WordPress. So you'd probably work with WooCommerce, BigCommerce, PrestaShop, and tools like that. So WordPress will make the blogging part easier, the content management, the pages, adding the pages and things like that easier. But then you will need a plugin to actually be able to sell products on that. So you might want to either hire a freelancer or outsource to a company to work with that. There are also, and bit of a plug here, there are also tools like rajabazar.in. It's a product that we've recently launched. Our company has recently launched, where you can set up your own storefront. So instead of selling on, let's say, an Amazon, which takes up a part of commission and then sells your product, and you don't really know who you're selling to, you create your, all you need to do is sign up on the platform, upload your inventory, and you're done. The platform takes care of everything else. Plus, you get to see statistics like who's buying your product, where the sales are coming from, what are the cities, what are the age groups that are interacting with you. So you get a lot of analytics and you can work with it. It's rajabazar.in. That's rajabazar.in. Sorry, guys, but do visit. Guess you want to take this up or should I continue? Yes.
Okay, so I can take this up, Lata.
Okay.
So here we start with Excel sheets. Most companies, when you're starting small or any business, you can start with Excel sheet. But then if your business is growing and you are adding customers and your customer base is say 5,000 plus, 10,000 plus, then Excel sheets are not the way to go about. Here you have to decide to get into a tool, to find a CRM, to find tools for project management or inventory management. So all this needs to be done. And you have to look at various web apps, cloud solutions that can help you. So now here is the need where somebody has to suggest something. So somebody has to come up, understand your requirements and suggest you. So in a problem situation like this, you can have a business consultant look at your problem and suggest what is good for you, what fits you well. And then you can adopt the tool. With the tool, any company comes with a lot of support. They tell you, they train your resources on how to start using it. And anytime you face any problems, there is a help desk, there is a troubleshooting desk that can readily help you to solve all the problems you're facing at your end. Now, when we're talking about this, such a model can help owners track critical metrics on a real-time basis. So if you are using any tool which gives you a good analytics, which gives you something on a real time, you don't have to calculate, you don't have to tabulate a lot. So there's a list of tools we have brought here, and it is nothing that we endorse and we say that you should only go for this. You can find something like this, whatever suits you. So there's no specific recommendation here, but then we have something.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lata, please.
Yeah. So the talking about digitizing or why you need to move your processes to the web, this was specifically apparent to a lot of people when COVID hit and there was a lockdown. A lot of companies had to stop their operations because they were not prepared to move everything to work from home model. So people had their laptops, they knew what work was cut out for them, but then the company did not really know or had all their processes offline and were not really sure how to move their operations online or track whether their employees are working doing what they're supposed to do. So these are certain tools that we've listed down that can help small businesses manage their operations. Some of them are free, some of them have a small amount associated with them. But then if you look at it in the big picture, it's not very expensive if it helps you simplify your operations, and it helps you continue your operations in cases like the COVID lockdown. So for example, for attendance, you need to make sure that you mark your attendance. Work from home, it's pretty easy to, just say hi in the morning meeting and then go off for the entire day and say bye when you come back down. So marking attendance, making sure people are reporting to work and doing the work that has been cut out for them. You can use work payroll, and there are other tools as well. Um, you can use Perk payroll for also managing their payroll. So a lot of businesses, they actually have Excel sheets that they send out to business to the banks, which then process the salary, and that's how the process rolls. Might not always work, so you can use this system for managing payroll as well. In some cases, it still doesn't work because there are some people that you work with who only work on day-to-day wages or cash basis. So for them, we really do not have an alternative. For communication, you have a lot of tools available these days. Google Apps, Office 365, and Zoho apps provide an integrated solution for you to use. It can handle your emails, sharing documents, creating forms for internal use and things like that. But apart from that, you can also use tools like Slack or Hangouts or Meets to actually meet your team face to face, talk to them, make sure that you're in constant touch. So someone has a problem, the other team member who can help with them is in another city. Use Slack to contact them. So investing in these tools really helps. For project management, you can sign up on websites like Asana, Basecamp, Pivotal Tracker, Trello. Trello is free. So there's a bunch of applications available that you can use to be able to track your project. You can actually create very streamlined uh, processes there. Any tasks that need to be done are in the to-do list. When you start doing them, move them to the ongoing list. When you're done with them, move them to the list where your senior can review it. And when the senior does the review, move it to the completed list. So you have a whole process that you can follow even when you're not in the same office. Billing and accounting, you have Razorpay, you have QuickBooks, you have FreshBooks, there are a bunch of other tools that you can use. And finally, for inventory management, in case of e-commerce, Unicommerce is a good tool. You can work with it. If you're using something like WooCommerce or a PrestaShop, they have their own inventory management, which you can also use and help track your e-commerce sales as well. Apart from this, there are a lot of ERP and CRM solutions, free and paid solutions that you can work with. All you need to do is do a Google search, find out the features that these tools have, find out which one is right for you, and get started with using them. You might not get it right in the first go. So there might be tools which you can use. You might start with using them because they seem to be popular. But then after a point of time, you feel that they're probably not right for you. So most of these tools, they offer a trial period where you can actually use and see what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And you can go ahead and start using whatever works best for you. And most of the tools that we've listed here, at or the other, you will find an open source free solution for it online as well. So see what works for you. If it's open source, it'll be free. You can start using it, see what works for you, see what doesn't work for you. If you have an in-house development team, you can ask them to even make changes to this according to your needs, and go ahead and deploy it for your organization. So that pretty much summarizes what we had to share. There are other tools as well, like the tools for chatbots, all these startups that are coming to support you with these tools. Most of them, since they're still new and they're trying to establish themselves, they have a very good support team that you can get in touch with. They can solve your issues, like Kes said, they can solve your issues, they can get back to you, they can fix any issues that you found in their code, and that helps both of you. So yeah, any questions that you guys have for us, we can take them up now.
There's one question I can read from the chat. How is it different to market product or service from social media in comparison to other online platforms?
What was that again?
How is it different to market a product or service on social media than other online platforms?
Okay, so when you're talking about social media, one, there are a lot of platforms even on social media that you can market to, and not all of them might work for you. So if you're a handmade products company, then Etsy is probably a better place for you to sell rather than anywhere else, rather than Facebook. Or if you are, let's say, someone who deals with photography or digital artwork, then probably Instagram is a better place to market. So one, know where your audience is, what you're trying to sell, and where your audience is. And the second, marketing it on other products or advertising it on other products. So when you're other places, when you say advertising it on other places except social media, I guess it probably comes down to advertising on the search engines, Google Ads. From my experience, Google Ads or even Facebook ads for that matter do not yield that great an ROI or return on investment compared to other social media, like for instance, Instagram. You can specify the amount of money that you want to invest in promoting a post on, even on YouTube for that matter, and then you can promote your post or promote your business or your shop, and it works. Google Ads, for instance, if you talk about me specifically, I make sure that I do not click on those ads. So if I search for something, if the first 3 or 4 results which are ads, I will never click on them. It's just irritating seeing those right on top.
There's
So
one interesting case here. One of my clients, he came up and said that somehow I see that a lot of clicks on my ad, and I think that this could be a sabotage from one of my competitors.
yes, because it costs you money every time someone clicks on it. So a lot of people actually do this, that they will click on it just so you can lose money, but you're still not getting any business out of it.
Correct.
So make sure you spend your money wisely. आप experiment करो, आप हर जगह try करो, but then with a limited amount of budget, and then see what works for you.
Right. So apart from that, I don't see any questions in the chat. If you have, any of you have any questions, please come forward.
If anybody has any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask.
Yeah, Anurag has specified use DuckDuckGo. I guess a lot of you probably do not know what DuckDuckGo is. It is a search engine like Google, but it has a very big difference compared to Google. They do not use your data. So if, for instance, on Google, let's say you were browsing Myntra for a specific product, for a pair of red shoes. Now, when you search Google for shoes, they will always show you results which include red shoes because they know that you were interested in red shoes, and you will see it across devices. Right. So Google uses a lot of your data, whether it's your location when you're using Google Maps, or whether it's your search history or things like that. DuckDuckGo is a fairly new company which does not use your data. So every time you have search results, even when you search Myntra for red shoes, if you type in shoes, you're not necessarily going to see red shoes in the search results. So try it out. It's a good product.
Okay, there is one question here about Tally. So, should you be using Tally for business?
This is a point of contention with a lot of CAs that we work with, because all of them want to use Tally. It's just how they've been working for so long, and moving to a new system is always a pain, at least in the beginning. But then tools like QuickBooks, for instance, which we talked about, they make it very easy to file your GST returns with a click, to get your IT computation with a click. All you need to do is make sure you input your data completely, which you also have to do with Tally in any case. So a lot of the new generation CAs are moving to these tools, and they're not as fixated on Tally as they are. So it does take anything takes teething, anything has teething problems. So it might take some, you might face some resistance when you're talking about moving to a cloud-based platform, but in the longer run, that is probably where things are moving.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question about Tally, and Lata, you hit the nail on the head actually, because I have been trying to move out of Tally for the last several years, and the only person objecting is my CA.
Yeah.
My entire team wants to do it, and mostly because Tally is not available on the cloud.
Yeah.
And I want, because everywhere else we've moved to the cloud. So yeah, in fact, Savneet has added a follow-up question there, and I think I can answer it to some extent, Savneet, that a lot of these cloud applications currently do not have the complexity of Tally, because Tally has grown organically with Indian businesses. And so the level of customization that is there with Tally is not there with a lot of other cloud options, unless you go for a complete ERP system. So, but I think if you have, a particular category of products, or if you have certain SKUs that you don't have, mix of, say, manufacturing and trading, then most of these cloud-based systems like QuickBooks do suffice. They're good. And QuickBooks, Zoho Books, these, quite a lot of programs are there, but still a lot of people, out of pure inertia and because of their CAs, continue to use Tally. And to answer your first question about how far into business you should use Tally, is that till you need an ERP system, or till you can convince your, or till you can convince, or till you can convince your CA. Please, any other questions? Well, it's we are already 10 minutes over time. We'd like to close if
I think we are done. Yeah.
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 So thank you, both of you. I think it was a wonderful session, very well curated. You covered most of the points, I think, that needed answering. And I think just about, whetted the appetite for people to, come to you for further, to pick your brains for more information. So I'm sure both of you are, open to attendees here asking you more questions directly.
Surely.
So, in fact, if you want, you can share your contact info in the chat, if at all you want to, and people can get in touch with you directly. So thank you very much, all of you, for attending, and thank you once again, Lata and Kes, for a wonderful session, a very informative session, and that's it. So you guys can get their contact details from the chat. And in case you're unable to note it down, you can always get in touch with the
Someone
TiE
from
office,
TiE.
and yeah, we'll get back to you with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah.